Chapter 16 of Hamster-Saurus Rex. If you want to see the previous chapters, go look at the other videos that I posted. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe. No talking, no laughing, no screaming, no singing, no whispering, no sleeping, no eating, no drinking, no chewing gum, no toys, no games, no puzzles, no word scrambles, no Sudoku, no electronic devices, no non-electronic devices, no cooking, no baking, no defrosting. As Mr. Copeland read off the long list of rules outlined in Horace Hotwater Middle School's official after-school detention policy, I could feel the thin skin and dried juice and dried glue still coated parts of my face, despite what Jared Kopernik thought I didn't enjoy the sensation of peeling it off. It was my first detention. For the next 2 hours, it would just be me, Mr. Copeland, Beaver Vanderkopf, and me. A standoff. I stared at Hamster-Saurus Rex, crouched in his cage, looking hungry. He gave me a low, pitiful growl. Could he feel the tension in the room? I snuck a glance at Beaver. He scowled at me so hard it looked like his face might break. Slowly, Beaver extended his index finger and pointed despite the no-pointing rule, at Hamster-Saurus Rex. Then he drew a finger crossing his neck and turned away. In the event that the student disobey any of the stated detention rules, that student will earn 2 extra detentions, it to be served after a later date. These future detentions are cumulative if the student is unable to serve all detention because of he or she has graduated from Horace Hotwater Middle School. These detentions will transfer to whichever high school the student subsequently attends. In conclusion, discipline. Mr. Copeland took a deep breath. He had finally reached the end of the rules. Beaver, obviously, you've heard this many times before. Did you get all of them, Sam? I opened my mouth to answer. No talking, said Mr. Copeland. I closed my mouth and nodded to indicate I understood. Fantastic, said Mr. Copeland. If you need something to me, write it down on a piece of paper. Then raise your hand. I will come by and read the note. He smiled, cracked open a can of seltzer, and leaned back in his chair. Do you hear that? I shook my head. Exactly, said Mr. Copeland. Utter silence. At home, my family talks over me. My next-door neighbors are always hammering things. In the backyard. Here at school, I have to listen to kids ask questions after question all day long. Only occasionally interrupted by ear-splitting bells. Detention is the only place where I can have any peace and quiet. To tell the truth, this is my favorite time of the week. I nodded to indicate I understood. And now, as always, I plan to read the newspaper, said Mr. Copeland, as he unfolded it, and drink this nice cold seltzer water. He took a sip and frowned. The seltzer seemed to have gone flat. Both of you wait right here. I'll get another one from the soda machine. And in my absence, don't do any of the 146 things I just mentioned. He stood to leave. Beaver grinned. This would be his chance. I raised my hand and frantically scribbled something on a piece of paper. Mr. Copeland came to my desk to read my note. It said, Please let me buy you a seltzer. It's the least I could do after my shameful misbehavior earlier today. You should relax, Mr. Copeland. You work so very hard to educate us children. He squinted at my note. This sounds like something your new girlfriend might write. I opened my mouth to protest. No talking, said Mr. Copeland. But okay, you hereby granted permission to buy me a can of seltzer. He handed me $1. I walked extra slowly to the soda machine. I needed to run out of detention clock. This isn't seltzer, said Mr. Copeland when I handed him the can I bought to him. It's grape soda. I scribbled another note. Sorry, the buttons are right next to each other, and I have large thumbs. Let me rectify this terrible mistake by returning and buying you the correct beverage, seltzer water. All right, said Mr. Copeland as he read it, but hurry up. He handed me another $1. Beaver looked like he wanted to kill me, even more than normal. Once again, I made my way to the soda machine. This time, I really did purchase seltzer. But I walked back so slowly, I would have made Wilbur Weber's snails impatient. It took me 10 minutes to travel 100 yards back to the classroom. Sam, you took so long that I finished reading the newspaper, said Mr. Copeland, annoyed. He tossed it into the recycling bin. This detention is my me time. Every morning, I enjoy a seltzer and read the paper. Simultaneously. Now I have to go find something else to read while I drink this. Both of you guys wait here. He stood up to lead. Again, I raised my hand and frantically scribbled another note. Sorry again, Mr. Copeland. Please let me try to make this right by going to the school library and selecting something interesting to read while you enjoy your cold beverage. P.S. You've earned it. You're a great teacher and a very cool guy. Mr. Copeland frowned as he read it. Okay, fine, he said, plopping back down in his chair. Go get me a book, maybe a spy thriller, but you know, funny. Beaver was stewing as I left the classroom again. My plan was working. Maybe he wouldn't get his moment alone with Hamster-Saurus Rex after all. It took me a while to find an espionage comedy in the school library. Day of the Cackle, 1973. Thank you, Sam, said Mr. Copeland as I handed him the book. I've heard of very good things. It's supposed to be more exciting than funnier than the 39 yucks. I smiled and took my seat. The 45 minutes of detention left. It was starting to seem like Hamster-Saurus Rex might survive the day. Hungry, thought he might be. A little guy looked calm and collected inside his cage. Mr. Copeland stood up. But now, if you'll excuse me, I need to use the restroom. I'll be back in a minute. Again, I raised my hand to write a note. Mr. Copeland read it. Sam, you really don't understand how you gonna to use the bathroom for me would work. He crumpled it and tossed it into the garbage. Just then, Beaver raised his hand. Mr. Copeland walked to his desk and read his note. He turned it sideways, then upside down. Some of these aren't letters, Beaver, but if I understand your intention correctly, you want to go to the bathroom yourself. Beaver nodded. Fine, said Mr. Copeland. Beaver stood up to go. I hadn't considered that he might want to leave me and Mr. Copeland alone with Hamster-Saurus Rex. What was he playing at? Beaver returned 5 minutes later and took his seat without a word. It wasn't long after when I smelled smoke. Is coming burning, cried Mr. Copeland, sniffing the air. Hang on. He leaped to his feet and dashed out the door. In an instant, Beaver was at the Raz Pro. Hamster-Saurus Rex sensed danger. His tail whipped, and his bared his fangs. Beaver grinned. You don't think you had the guts to get a detention, Sam, said Beaver. Too bad you still can't do anything to stop this. In fact, it's better this way. You'll get to watch. He grabbed the cage with his good hand and shook it. Inside, Hamster-Saurus Rex snarled and puffed out his chest. Come on, Beaver, I said. You don't need to hurt him. Together, you and this hamster ruined my life. People used to be afraid of me. Now they call me Urinal Head. They laugh when I walk by. Hamster-Saurus Rex is only trying to protect me, I said. I'm the one that you should be mad at, not him. Beaver shook his head in disgust. That might be the saddest part of all. You're nothing without this hamster, Sam. Just some weird loser with no friends who draws little pictures. It stung, maybe because he had a point. Now, just like Wolfsplosion, said Beaver, turning to the cage. This is going to end with violence. Beaver, please, I cried. Don't do a flash of light and of pain. I felt a flash of pain as Beaver shocked me across the jaw. The next thing I knew, I was lying on the floor, dazed and blinking. Hamster-Saurus Rex roared. Not so scary anymore, said Beaver. Come on out, Martha Jr. He pulled on the locked cage door. It didn't budge. Beaver grunted and pulled harder. Nothing. He put the cage on the floor and with both of his feet and pulled as hard as he could. The pet cat Raz Pro held it up. It was good in keeping mutant hamsters in as well as keeping rampaging bullies out. You're not getting off that easy, cried Beaver. At last he jammed his finger through the tiny gaps in the bars. For a moment, Hamster-Saurus Rex's eyes met mine. I swear the little guy winked at me. Right before he chomped down on Beaver's index finger. Ah! Beaver squealed, ripping his hand back. The tip of his finger was bloody. Hanging on. I know how to get inside the cage. I threw open the drawer in Mr. Copeland's desk and began rummaging through the stuff. After a minute of this, he stopped and grinned. The key caught the light and held up. At that moment, we both heard a noise down the hall. Beaver swore. He dropped the key and slammed Mr. Copeland's desk shut. Both of us scrambled back to our desks. Beaver, said Mr. Copeland, furious. His hand covered the suit. His purple and red parrot tie singed at the end. Did you start a fire in the water fountain? Beaver shook his head. Mr. Copeland took a deep breath. Look, you might not be able to prove that you did it, but I know it was you. So let this be your final warning. Beaver Vanderkopf, if you misbehave one more time, you're suspended for school. Is that clear? Beaver nodded and indicated that he understood. Mr. Copeland noticed the cage key on his desk. He picked it up and put it into his bag. Mr. Copeland didn't dare leave us alone again. Even for a second, the rest of the detention passed smoothly. Hamster-Saurus Rex growled at Beaver from inside the cage, but Beaver didn't try anything else. 5 minutes go by. 5 minutes to go. I breathed a sigh of relief. The little guy would live another day. But right before it was time to leave, I saw Beaver scribble a note. Instead of raising his hand, he simply left it on his desk. He'd written it for me. I palmed the note as I walked past and only unfolded it once. I was riding home in the car with my mom. It was only 3 words. Tomorrow, final revenge.